Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. You're here on the Women's Broadcast Television Network, WBTVN.TV. You're listening to the Shea, Vaughn Show, and I'm your host, Shea Vaughn. You know, we bring experts on so that we can put them in the spotlight and so that they can really show us all the things about their expertise to help us to live a better life. Today, I am so excited about our guest. So let me tell you just a little bit about him. Randall Bell is a PhD, is a socioeconomics, and the CEO of Landmark Research Group, LLC. Prior to this, he led a national practice at PricewaterhouseCoopers, the largest consulting company out there. I want to just thank you so much, Randall, for joining us today. Thanks for coming on the show.
Hey, thanks, Shea. It's great to be here.
You know, you've just got such a great background. I mean, just amazing. What got you to where how did you go up and figure out that this is what you wanted to do?
Well, you know, growing up like so many, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And I wanted to be a rock star. And I had the guitars. My dad worked for Fender. I had the hair at the time, but I just didn't have the talent. Anyways, I wandered around and got into real estate. And then I thought I want to do something a little different. I applied to law school, got in miraculously. And then the day before law school started, I was floating in the pool in my backyard. And I thought, you know what? I'm just not sure the world needs another lawyer. And if it does, it's not me. And I thought, what if I take my skill set in real estate, what creates value, turn it upside down and look at what causes a loss in value. And I made a decision. Back in those days, we had fax machines, and I faxed my resignation into law school. And I called all my clients. I said, just call me when there's a disaster, call me when there's damage, because I specialize in damaged stuff. And that led to disasters all over the world.
Wow. But as growing up as a child, I mean, did you have certain things that you thought, gee, you're going to grow up and, I mean, just even going off to college or whatever, was this always something that you thought that this is what you wanted to do other than being that rock star that you're talking And certainly
it really wasn't. I started my career actually trying to make a lot of money, and I actually did. I made at the age of 25. I think I had a publicly held company. I was worth about $20 million, and that was back when $20 million was a lot of money. And then I promptly lost it. And I thought, you know what? Just chasing money wasn't satisfying, because frankly, I was in a computer business. I had no interest in it other than to make money. And that's when I switched into real estate, which I seem to have a better aptitude for. I really enjoy it. So I kind of evolved to a point where I got into a career, fortunately about 30 years ago, that I really enjoy, that I really love. But, I had a lot of false starts before that, quite honestly.
I think that's kind of you to share that, because I think we have an audience out there that, feels like, wow, when do I finally get to the yes, this works for me kind of thing, rather than what was I thinking?
Yeah. And I can relate to that segment of the audience, because I went through it myself. I tried this, I tried that. And finally, just through being, persistent, frankly, not giving up, just going for it. I mean, that may sound cliche, but that's what it actually was. And then I hit the jackpot in terms of a career that I really enjoyed.
Well, I think what you said made a lot of sense, because we do have to kind of push through those things. I mean, it's not like it's going to get up and just happen for us. We've got to put the time, the effort, and the energy and the inspiration really into it to come out with something that's going to be, that you're proud of, because it doesn't happen on its own.
Yeah.
I'm interested in, I'd love that they call you. What's your nickname? Your nickname is.
It depends. Shea, it depends on who you talk to. People Magazine, they call me the Ghostbuster. I've never seen a ghost. The Wall Street Journal called me Dr. Disaster.
That was
the LA Times front page called me Master of Disaster. I had an interesting conversation with my mom about that. She saw that. So I got, the one I get the most is master of disaster. I get called that all the time.
Master of disaster.
Yeah.
That's kind of like, affectionately,
Yeah.
saying that about you. And I think that it's kind of like, like tongue in cheek. Oh, disaster, meaning that you're going to go in and you're going to solve the problem.
Yeah. Well, and what really floats my boat, Shea, I do work on disasters. I worked on the biggies, you name it. I wrote a textbook, and I worked on the World Trade Center and Hurricane Katrina and the BP oil spill and OJ and John Bonet and hundreds of cases.
Yeah.
I've gotten billions of dollars from my clients. So, but what really floats my boat, what really intrigues me, quite honestly, is not the dollar amounts, it's the people behind the statistics. Because, I've literally been, on the Bikini Atoll, where the U.S. government used the area for nuclear testing. And I've sat on those islands for a week at a time, multiple times, with the villagers who were impacted by the nuclear fallout. And when you get to meet the people, behind the statistics, that's what is, for me, the pinnacle sweet spot of experience is to learn their story and how they worked through, how they broke through, a really bad situation, and really, I call it post-traumatic thriving. That's what I love to study, is post-traumatic thriving, how people really move beyond their circumstances and pull through things actually better than they were before the disaster.
Well, you're like the cleanup team, you kind of go in there with all the answers about what needs to be done. You've mentioned some of those disasters, but the Hurricane Katrina, wow, tell me a little bit about that. That must have just kind of like blown your mind away.
I got to tell you, Shea, the media showed 1% of what actually happened there. It was off the hook crazy. Town after town, not just neighborhoods. I've seen lots of neighborhoods that have been destroyed, and that's obviously horrible. But this was not just neighborhoods. It was town and city after, mile after mile for 120 miles along the coast, where you'd go into a neighborhood and every house looked like a bomb went off. It was just the most destructive thing I've ever seen. And then occasionally, Shea, believe it or not, you'd see someone living in their house, and they had, 4 feet of mud. They weren't really living. They were more like camping. They had porta potties and electrical generators, and they're living upstairs because the downstairs looked like, a war scene. And yet they were there. They would not leave under any circumstances. They were there to rebuild their community. It didn't make any economic sense, quite frankly, but they had this strong resolve to get things back to the way they were. So you met those people. It was mind-bending. Yeah.
One of the things that I remember reading about you is that this journey, this passion that you have to really fix all of these things, is that you've actually been to all 50 states.
I have been to all 50 states. In fact, I just flew in from Florida last night. I'm working on a condominium that exploded. That's another story. I've also been to all 7 continents. I actually went to Antarctica to look at global warming. I went to a British scientific outpost. So I've done, a fair amount of traveling all over the world on these cases.
I can just imagine, if you were to pick one, and I know they're all bad, and I do know that the news, sometimes over delivers on, certain, things, and under delivers on lots of them too. And I guess it kind of depends on what the next story is that they feel might be more important. But seriously, I think that these things are really important. And I think that we do need to know more about what's really going on. And more importantly, cause or whatever. Are there things that can be done with your expertise that could help to prevent some of these things that are ongoing?
That's a great question, Shea, because the answer is yes. A lot of people think that complex problems require complex solutions. Exactly. And I understand complex. I understand the mathematical regression formulas and algorithms. For some reason, I'm just able to understand that. but I respect simple. I understand the complex, but I really respect simple. And a lot of times the cause of a disaster comes down to some remarkably simple, frankly, simple, stupid reasons why the disaster happened. But on the flip side, moving beyond the crisis, and those who have, enjoy post-traumatic thriving are those who do it through a very simple process. It's not magical. It's not complicated. Frankly, it's not Tony Robbins sugar-coated stuff. It's very simple, grounded principles that will assure, ultimate thriving. But that's the big message of my whole book is simple, and a simple process and a simple framework to build and go forward.
Yeah, I kind of look so many times at healthcare and solutions that can be taken that are preventable, so that people don't get obesity, certain kinds of cancer, heart diseases, all of those things, type 2 diabetes. I mean, it's craziness.
Yeah.
And it happens because, call it education, they don't know enough, or they go to the doctor and the doctor gives them a Band-Aid, or or put them on, some kind of a drug that's for life.
Yeah.
And I never think anything should be for life. I think that should be a choice choice of your own. And I'm sharing that because I think that there's so many things that are parallel to what you do as far as prevention is concerned.
Yeah, the reality is very few people call me for prevention. They call me when the crisis occurs.
Exactly.
I wish they would, because a lot of these problems could have been solved with some very simple common sense logic. I mean, the biggest environmental case in the history of the world was when when the U.S. government detonated a nuclear bomb on the Bikini Atoll.
That's right.
And it destroyed, in one case alone, I got my clients $2 billion in just one case. That's the amount of damage. And that doesn't measure the loss of life. I mean, talking to the people, who lost their children because of that, the whole basis for that disaster was some military guy said, let's go ahead and detonate this bomb, even though prevailing winds had shifted towards inhabited islands. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to say, that's probably a bad idea to detonate a nuclear bomb while the prevailing winds are going towards islands that are inhabited. It's remarkably stupid stuff. When I was in Chernobyl, it was the same thing. It was just really basic, stupid thinking. But, they call me, in the aftermath, and, I try and make things better, but you can't make what happened go away. All you can do is make things as good as you can, given what you're dealing with.
Right. And I love one of the comments about you too. It says, dive, survive, and thrive.
Yeah.
I mean, where did that come from? I mean, I love that because it's kind of like a tagline to live by.
Yeah, thanks, Shea. It came to me, I fly to these places around the world. It was in Thailand and Guam and on these cases. And so you're sitting in the plane for 14 hours sometimes, and you're just kind of thinking, how can I articulate this? Like tonight, I'm speaking to a group of women going through addiction recovery. A couple weeks ago, I was in San Quentin prison sitting down with literally first-degree murderers who are trying to rebuild their lives the best they can. I do a lot of volunteer work with the homeless people. So I'm always trying to kind of translate these stories and these experiences into, I don't want to say the word simple, but straightforward, intelligent messages. And that's really, the dive, survive, thrive thing just came to me sitting on a plane flying back from one of these disasters. I was thinking, that's really your choices. After a crisis, you really have three choices. You can dive. You can be ruined. You can survive and work back to your baseline. That's totally cool. I get that. Or you could thrive. You could actually be woken up from the crisis and say, you know what? Not only am I going to get back what I had, but I've got game. I've got drive, and I'm going to actually excel where I was before. That's the group of people that has really intrigued me. The people that kind of get kicked in the teeth, and they go, whoa, and they wake up and they do something really fantastic. Like I go to downtown LA all the time, and I stop in, I see a lady, her name is Erica Leon. She survived the Holocaust. She's 92 years old. She lost her entire family, but she paints these beautiful oil paintings and watercolors that are so bright and vibrant. She's so cool to hang out with. And I asked her directly, Erica, you know, you lost your family in the Holocaust. Why is it you're just so cool? And you're 92 years old, and people around you are, you know, are giving up on life and dying, and you're just going and painting and friendly and fun and everything. She goes, it's a choice. I chose to do this. I see the clouds, but they give contrast to the sunshine, and I just choose to focus on the sunshine and the bright things of life.
It is all about the choices that we make, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it really is about, you know, surviving. And what are you going to do with your life if you do survive? Is this, you know, going to just, you know, kill you inwardly the rest of your life so that nothing positive comes out of this? Or do you really start to focus on what can I do to help other people? How can I be a role model, you know, for this? And that's what she is. But my question to you that is really even more important is, since you're in LA, do I have to wait until I'm 92 or whatever before we get a chance to sit down face to face and say hi?
I'd love to sit down with you anytime. And
I'm just kidding with you.
But yeah, it's you can change the direction you're going at any phase in life. You just can. The old psychology, the old sociology is that, you know, by the time you hit adolescence, you're formed and you're basically set in your ways. That's kind of complete nonsense. The reality is you can change at any stage in your life, all the way up to 92 or even beyond. It's really a choice.
It is a choice. And every single day, I always talk about getting up and feeding yourself, you know, something positive. Don't turn on the TV. Don't answer the telephone because that's all negative. But it's your choice to help yourself. And I don't care if it's raining outside or thundering or it's beautiful. It's a beautiful day because I have the opportunity to make my landscape what I'm going to make it for that day. And right. I think that's what you're talking about in talking about her. And she chooses to get up every day and to make something beautiful and to turn it into something and to be that person that is leading by example in life. It's all good. I want to talk to you about your book.
Yeah.
Wow. Me, we, do, be.
Yeah.
I mean, were you thinking about some kind of a tongue twister when you put that together?
Here's a visual aid. You know, me, we, do, be. It's basically the 4 cornerstones of success. You know, I've gotten some nice feedback on it. It's a catchy title, but believe it or not, Shea, you can take any category of life or business and put it into one of these 4 categories. The me cornerstone is what I'm thinking. It's everything I believe philosophically, what I'm thinking intellectually, what I feel spiritually. That's me. We is our relationships, how we connect with other people. Do is getting the job done. That's being productive with our money, with our health, and so forth. That's the do cornerstone. And be is what we're becoming. It's what makes us uniquely human. The animal kingdom is not thinking about retirement in the future or any of those things.
No.
But humans are distinct. Humans are thinking about goal setting, time management, leaving a legacy, those kinds of things. That's the be cornerstone. So there's a lot there, but it boils down to simple me, we, do, be.
You know, I love that cornerstone because, and I love how you explained it because it actually talks about every facet, you know, of life and the foundation and defines what success actually looks like. Yeah,
it does. And when I'm with, you know, visiting the homeless, or I do a lot of volunteer work. I'll never want to retire because, you know, honestly, Shea, I'm a lousy golfer. But, you know, so I always want to be doing something.
Play together then.
Yeah. And I've had a remarkable career that's taken me to 7 continents. These experiences, and you know, I feel a responsibility to the degree that anybody wants to know what I've learned from that. I'm happy to share it. But it boils down to these 4 cornerstones. I mean, when I worked on the World Trade Center case, you know, honestly, you know, we're dealing with a very, you know, incredibly important case. But for me, in my role, it came down to me, we, do, be. Me was, before I flew to New York, I did my homework. I studied and researched everything I could about 9/11, not just the media stuff, but all the underlying research. When I walked into the boardroom, excuse me,
that's all right.
Hope you're going to edit that out.
Uh,
When I walked into the boardroom, I was part of a team, and I wanted to know every other member of the team and how we could synergize and work together, and they could help me and I could help them. And that was the we cornerstone. Then do was getting to work. And for the World Trade Center, that meant I flew to Hiroshima, Japan to look at their memorial. I went to Oklahoma City to look at their memorial. I went to Hawaii with Pearl Harbor. I did research all over the world. And then the B was the legacy. And when I was there in that conference room, Shea, honestly, they had blueprints for the Freedom Tower. It was just a concept. And so to see that legacy, see what direction we were going to go, see how that site, which when I was there, it looked horrible, it was going to be transformed into something really brilliant, really beautiful. And to be on that team was very satisfying. But for me, it came down to me, we, do, be. That's how I organized my thinking, so that I had a very focused approach to how I was going to get this job done, rather than just being kind of scatterbrained about it. You got to have a focus, and me, we, do, be gives us an incredible focus.
It does, and it takes that kind of focus, because every single time that we get off of what we're supposed to get done and work on till we actually complete it, we just end up with a lot of projects that don't really get finished.
Yeah, and that buries a lot of people, projects that don't get done. Yeah, agreed.
And life is like that. And I talk on destiny all the time, because I think that people talk about destiny, they think it's all way out there. They know that it's coming, but they don't think it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's so far out. And the truth of the matter is, destiny is what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
What that's going to be. It's that journey. Every single choice that we make, the decisions that we make. I love the thing about that you are, really out there helping other people and making a difference in their lives, because somehow you have just found this reward for doing that. And I think that there's reward for all of us that really try to go that, but you have to really feel it inside. You got to really want to do it. It's not, I want to do it because I want to be able to tell people that I do it, or I'm doing it because somebody's going to see me do something good. It has nothing about that. In fact, it's the opposite of that. I don't even want to tell anybody the things, that I give back on, because it's not important. It's just important that I feel good about it and that I do the right thing to help other people, right?
I agree. Very well said, Shea, that I talk about my volunteer work to the extent that enough to hopefully convince other people to get out in the community, because you don't have to go to India to find people that are starving. They're right here in Orange County where I live. They're in LA where you are. They're all over the United States.
I think that California, seriously, as far as homelessness, here's what my thing is. Tell me if you agree with this. I look at all of this. I know it's a big challenge, to put it all together and get these poor souls off the streets, whatever. But what really kills me is the kind of money that goes into different projects, whether it's political, whether it's, to other countries that need help. And yet we're just not doing everything that I think that we can do, coming together to collaborate to really help the people that are right here in America, right here, that we're stepping over every day of our lives.
Yeah, I agree. And homelessness is a very complex problem. I happen to know quite a bit because I've been volunteering for so long with the homeless. I can tell you that I think the quality of a society is dependent upon how we treat the poor, quite honestly. And if we're just going about our lives, and being judgmental, frankly, I used to be kind of like that. Years ago when I lived in Santa Monica, there were a lot of homeless. And, when I first moved there, I was like, oh, wow. And I was giving everybody $1. And then I kind of became judgmental. And I'll tell you, when you sit down and get to know these people, because they are people and they have the full range of human emotion that you or I have, you learn their stories and you say, at least I said to myself, if I had been through what this person had been through, I'd be a train wreck too. So I don't judge anymore. I just say, you know what? I don't know if this dollar is going to go to drugs or if it's going to go to a hamburger, but I'm not going to judge, and I'm going to help where I can. And I think it's ultimately our character. It's dependent upon, both individually and as a society, on how we treat the poor and doing something to make their situation a little bit better.
You know, I love that you said that you're not judging, because you have had the opportunity to sit down and hear their stories, and they are just, I mean, you can't help but to walk away from that situation and say to yourself, this could be me.
Yeah, and some of the stories are absolutely horrific, worse than any movie I've ever seen, and their real life, you know, in terms of their childhood and what they went through, and the fact that they're still surviving and can hold an intelligent conversation. Of course, there's a lot of mental health issues going on, and I'm not a mental health expert, but nonetheless, there's that. It is a complex problem. But I'll say this, you know, this is something we got to remind ourselves as Americans. A homeless person in the United States, believe it or not, has a better standard of living than billions of people across the world. So we gotta give ourselves a little bit of credit for having a society where we can at least say that. But that's not to say there's not a lot more that we should be doing.
Yeah, I think there is a lot more, and thank you so much for sharing that as far as other countries are concerned, because America is great, and there's so much to have gratitude for.
Yeah.
And I don't even understand why we just don't do better on collaboration. It just doesn't need to be that way. And so anyway, I just think all the things that you've, you know, gone through and how you're helping. Do you have is your book there? I want you to hold it up so that down and put it up there so people can see it. Me, we, do, be. And you know, I just love it. It's like I'm going to walk around now saying that to myself because it is the cornerstones of everything that need to be done and the decisions and things that need to be made. And you can come to the right conclusion on that. But I love the research. That's first and foremost. Do the job. Learn as much as you possibly can. Education, research are the two most important things before you take anything on. Because you just walk in blind. You don't really have the knowledge to deal with the questions that are going to come your way, or some of the things that you want to help with that you could have found out before you walk through the doors.
Yeah, I'm pretty passionate about this, Shea. I would say to your audience that, you know, get the book. If you can't afford it, I don't hide out. Google me, send me an email, and I'll send one to your public library and tell them to check it out to you first. It's not for every book we sell a lot of books. We give away 3 or 4. It's not a money thing. It's just that I thought it was time, honestly, Shea, that the world has an intelligent self-development book that's really backed by statistical research, which isn't just handing out accolades and false, you know, promises. That's real, and the rebuilding process. And I break it down. I talk about little things we can tweak in our lives and our businesses to just make them run more smoothly, more profitably, more grounded, more fulfilling. That's what it's all about, and I just enjoy doing it.
Well, thanks for being in that spotlight today as our expert here on the Shea Vaughn Show. From the bottom of my heart, I thank you for that. I also want to thank the audience for joining us today, and until the next time, we will see you then. Take care.